and thanks for looking at this video that I sent you and probably made you watch. This is sort of like my what I did on summer vacation report. It's in a game called Factorio. We build a giant factory. Right now, I am basically responding to not a crisis, but I built some new stuff, which means it's getting attacked a lot, and I'm going to start over here and then show you what I've done. So, this is my newest addition. In a way, it's kind of like the last one. This is a giant iron mine that I built. Or not giant, but relatively big. And this is the sort of last main thing I'm adding to my factory to get it up to full capacity, if you know what I mean. Because I did that, it's putting a huge stress on my logistics supply and construction system, so I'm just kind of like cleaning up any messes that come up. In this game, you build a factory which produces pollution, and there's an race of like bugs or whatever on this planet that don't like it, and they attack any sites of pollution. And so as you see, they're wrecking a bunch of stuff over here, fighting with my robots, and my robots are having a hard time coping with all this down here because they're also supplying this base that just got built. So anyhow, heading back over there. These are my outlying mines. They are all supplied by rail systems. The main way that I deliver raw materials is by rail lines. There's many ways to do it, but rail is by far the fastest and the most efficient way of doing it. I haven't set up these trains to run just yet, but we're just about there. Poopy. Okay. So Factorio, you kind of manage resources and build stuff, basically. What can be hard about this stage of the game is managing the bugs as well. So where I'm at right now is I've got 2 trains set up over here. They are going to fill up with iron. These are my miners down here. Over here also a bunch of defenses. We got some flamethrowers, lasers. That's a flamethrower. Da-da. Some of these never. So these little things you see flying around are robots. There are logistics and construction robots. Logistics robots move items around. Construction robots build and repair objects. If you see me doing it, you'll mostly see it through inventory, but I can place something down either by doing this, and I have a RoboPort on me, or the system to build and deconstruct things. So this is my main iron mine that I just set up. So what I'm going to do is show you the rest of my base. Just wait for this train to fill up, and we'll head down there. So the map is over here. As you can see, I have lots of different rail lines connecting things. All my trains are automated. They don't rely on any sort of programming other than just preset stops. This will kind of give you a quick view of my base too. So the drop-off over here is the main drop-off point for iron. This actually used to be copper over here, but I moved copper over to here. That's a problem. And I'm kind of in the process of... so when this train is done, I'm going to take it off, because what I'm doing is I'm reducing the number of trains on my network, because as you might have seen there, this was kind of stuck on the tracks down here. And on a few of these I've made some mistakes on how I do them. So this one actually stupidly didn't actually wait at the point where it picked up its cargo. And rather than wait for this to empty out, I'm just gonna get rid of this stuff. Why do I have so much rocket fuel? So this system here is how I give items to my robots. This section requests them, and this tells them to take it away. Whenever you hear that alarm noise, it just means something's being damaged. But basically what I'm trying to do is get it down so that at each of my mines for any material, I have 2 trains, one that'll drop off at this station here, one that'll drop off at the other, and iron mostly works the same way. You have these 2 stations here. I just have this legacy station over here, which I figured was helpful anyway, because so what this one does is it only feeds into over here, and these produce iron solely for the purpose of making steel. Whereas these arrays down here produce just iron plates. They both have the same product, but these plates are fed over here in order to construct steel. That's really funny. So, and then these copper lines here just feed out to that. I have, so the copper gets split 6 ways, whereas the iron gets split 4 ways. Basically, I find I need more copper than I can supply with 4 arrays, but I have enough input coming in from my mines that it doesn't deplete anything. But generally, I try to keep everything 1-to-1 whenever I can. This is a fuel-producing facility, but right now I'm going to head up here because something is messing with one of my outlying mines, and I just want to clear it out. So the bugs kind of like force you to stop what you're doing for a little while. They can be kind of annoying, but the whole point is that they kind of get you out of your comfort zone. So I'm going to add in some turrets here just to protect these guys. And so all your robots are going to use these buildings called roboports to both recharge and move some stuff around. What I've never done is optimized it, because you see these lines, these are connections, and basically this means that there's a path they can take from here, but what they don't do is they don't follow this path, they just take a straight line. So a lot of times they'll come through this area where the cursor is, and they'll run out of batteries and kind of have to go all the way down. Alright, that guy's gonna die. So, since I'm over here, this over here is a very late addition to my factory. This is the main fuel production facility. Previously, obviously, everything was run on coal, but it's a lot more energy efficient and a lot more, you get a lot more fuel out of it by making solid fuel from petroleum. So what this facility is first of all, some crude oil storage tanks, and then we've got a bunch of oil refineries doing advanced refining. And then down here also, since I have, whoa, trains will kill you if they hit you, so be careful. I have way more coal than I need. There's only 1 or 2 items that require coal to build. So I have tons and tons left over, and since I'm not burning it anymore, I liquefy it, which will turn it into a lot of heavy oil. So the piping around here is more complicated than in a lot of places, but basically what I do is I convert everything down, all my heavy oil down to light oil, and then I hold on to the petroleum gas that I get from this. And basically what it'll do is I have more petroleum gas than I do of anything here. So these are going to refine these into solid fuel, and then when I have, it's when I have an excess of light oil, which I almost never do, these will turn on and start producing solid fuel. So they just did it. Couldn't have planned that better. But then we went low, and so they turned off. And the reason why they turn off is because I need light oil to make rocket fuel. Rocket fuel is used for launching rockets, and most, if maybe not all of my trains run on it as well. A lot of trains are actually running down their supply of solid fuel, but rocket fuel is less energy efficient, but it makes your trains a lot faster. So yeah, it looks like a lot of these are still being fed by solid fuel. So while I'm doing this, I think I'm going to just change that here. I'm going to build a chest to store these. Ba-bow. This right here is just a fuel stop for my trains. So they'll come in here and just pick up fuel. This gets used for basically everything that is not a copper or iron train, which seems a little strange, but basically when I started this factory, I was feeding all the trains through direct coal lines that went into everything, and then so they went to the ore drop-off spots, and rather than take coal to every single station that they could possibly stop at, like say here, or the crude oil that I drop off that I showed you up there, they would just stop here for 10 seconds and get whatever fuel they need. So once they start depleting the fuel, they'll get rocket fuel and have a good time. So moving on, heading back to the main production, this is where my iron comes from. So steel is over here, and then copper runs down these ways. And this all feeds into the oldest part of the factory, which is this stuff up here, and my original power plant down here. If you see things like this, where there's like a whole bunch of belts feeding into these splitters here, or also like up here, what these do is they just balance the level of materials on each line. That way I can have things pulling off willy-nilly, and it'll just sort them all back together, and I don't have to do weird stuff. But these are my main buses, and over here, this is like my sort of primary materials facility. This is where I mostly produce stuff that goes into my own inventory. It isn't usually used so much for automated construction. Some of it still is, but it's pretty rare. The exception is going to be this ammo, which should I ever set up machine gun turrets again, they're there. And then a bunch of other stuff. So it's basically been, but it's sorted to mostly things that like I might want a lot of. And that just, it's direct access for whatever wants it. And then when we get into the main factory, it's over here. You might see weird belts sometimes. A lot of stuff has been like retrofitted and done over a couple of different times. So if they look like that, it's not on purpose. It's just the result of this. Like this, I don't know what was going on here, but there was a lot of stuff. So once we get into this area, most of the stuff is going to be geared towards making science packs. And since I don't have any rocket science available, I'm going to just do some research on something else. So stop there. I never researched atomic bombs, so here we go. And this will really get my factory cranking, because it's science that really uses up the most of your materials. Over here I'm making transport belts. These are modules. And then down here we have the electronic circuit production. There were electronic circuits that were produced up in that original area I showed you, but these are what are used mostly for my more high-intensity applications. These I don't really use, so these are for making red circuits, but I found I just can't produce enough green circuits to keep these properly supplied, so I basically just turned it off. We've got plastic input over here. Over here is where I make my worker robot frames, and I probably should make a few of those. So I'm picking up frames from a line here. Yeah, I need some construction. Make a few more logistic spots while I'm at it. So these chests here, your robots will either pick up or drop off stuff in these chests depending on what kind it is. So then when we look down here, or head up this way actually, this is my secondary power plant. I built this before I switched over to nuclear as a, just basically because I was running out of space in my original power plant. This is fuel for that plant. These are the boilers over here that feed the turbines. And then here's my primary oil facility. This produces mostly non-fuel. So this is going to be what I make my petrochemicals out of. sulfuric acid, plastic, explosives, lubricants, things like that. I built this first, and it does have some fuel production in it, but that's just kind of a leftover. What these do over here is these take excess heavy oil from my factory and turn it into, they fill oil barrels with it. Then they take it over to the other oil facility, and there's, I think, another one for petroleum gas. Should I ever really need a lot of lubricant again, I'd probably turn that off, but for now it's pretty good. These are the original refineries. The capacity is a lot lower over here, but I also need a lot less capacity. Here's an artillery base. Then over here is a combination of my solar farm and my accumulator arrays. And then here is my uranium mine and my uranium processing. Uranium gets split up, refined by these, what's the word, centrifuges. And then this is the enrichment facility. I have the major processing turned off because basically I have enough uranium that I can enrich that I don't have to mine it, both through waste materials and everything, but it's a really intensive process. You need tons and tons of U-235 to really get anywhere. So I try to save it so that it's as efficient as possible. Then up there is my first oil pumping facility. I have a second one, but it's pretty far away. Here is my rocket. I'm going to tell it to auto-launch. But basically, this is how I get my rocket science. And then here is my nuclear power plant. These are my heat exchangers, my turbines, and that's how I get most of my power. Now I have various outlying areas that are all connected by rail. This is mostly going to be raw materials. So I got coal down here, one copper mine, another copper mine, and stone, iron, bow. So yeah, that's it. One last lap. And then I guess as a final thing, I love doing this because it just makes the robots go crazy. So I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in my trash slots, but it's all things that I'm requesting from the network. So they're all going to, the robots are all going to grab it and then put it all back in my inventory. So it should make everything go crazy. This is really bad for productivity though, because I think it's probably going to occupy every single robot I've built. Nope, it's all over. That's it. Cool. Well, thanks for watching.